that legacy of partition. At any moment, it could all be taken away. We could lose everything. Your neighbors are suddenly digging graves for you. You know, the bloodbath of it, the trauma of it that we still haven't really fully contended with in the UK. You know, there's no monument to partition in the UK, you know, to all those millions of people that were killed. It's the legacy of that triggers this kind of this trauma, this sense of having to be on alert, this sense of not being sure where you stand and therefore who you are, not recognizing yourself, you know. So it's certainly a big thread in the film.
Britons are on board and I love a cup of tea and that. But where my jeans are from, people don't really MC in that. Now everybody, everywhere, want their country back. If you want me back to where I'm from, the proper need a mat.
Thanks, Riz Ahmed and Bassam Tariq. Thank you for joining me. First of all, I just want to say that it was an amazing film. I don't think I've seen a film like this before, and especially like as a Pakistani Muslim living in the UK, I recognise things in it that I've not seen in film before. Bassam, in terms of a film like this, quite often there's a trope, often seen through a Western eye, where essentially you've got a hero who's trying to achieve their ambition and basically trying to break free from tradition, and the enemy is often the family and the community. This film feels as if it's subverting that. Was that an intentional thing that you wanted to do?
Really, what it was, it's like Zed's at war with himself, and I think all of us really are. I don't know if you feel that way, Naz, but it's like, man, like, you know, really the biggest challenge of us doing any of the work that we're doing right now, it's really, I think we get in the way of ourselves. And I think we look at our family as a burden, but we don't really see how, if we just allow them in, what that can actually do to our work. So I think that was kind of really the battle of this film, the battle that we are going through as people, as Riz and I, we were working on the film.
Riz, following on from that, there's been a lot of talk about the good immigrant sort of syndrome at present. One thing about your character is he's very imperfect. There's not a lot of vanity in this portrayal, and in fact, he can be quite cruel. He's sort of consumed with ego, quite selfish in some ways. How important was it for you to portray a protagonist that is essentially an avatar of yourself, to be imperfect, to be somebody who's conflicted?
I thought I was just coming off pretty good. I'm going to be honest. I mean, shit, man. You think this is meant to be a puff piece, and it's not worked out, has it? We need to recut this thing. No, look. I mean, it's a film about a lot of personal themes I think everyone on this call can relate to, but I think in a way that everyone can relate to, which is home is something that you're trying to find your whole life, but something you're trying to escape your whole life, right? And that push and pull, like Bassam said, is actually a push and pull within ourselves. And so I guess we just had to kind of like put the microscope on ourselves and be quite unforgiving, and also kind of like, you know, kind of play up certain aspects of the character to increase that sense of being at war with yourself, you know, of being vicious to yourself, being vicious to your own people. And so I guess in a way, it just felt quite important to be kind of honest, and also to kind of like go for the jugular a little bit, you know, with regards to myself. I mean, look, Zed is a character who on some level, I mean, it's very heavily based on me, but he's kind of also become his own thing. And similarly, all the characters in the film, with me, Bassam and I, are drawing from our own lives. But then, you know, a film kind of tells you what it is. You don't tell the film what it is when you start making it. And so it becomes its own thing. But this is a character who kind of talks about representing his people and talks about stretching culture. Dude, when was the last time you hung out with your actual people? When was the last time you went to hang out with your actual family? Oh, is it? You're doing it for your people, yeah? It's like, yeah, you want to save your people, but you want to save your people, no one else. Do you know what I mean? There's this amazing line in Silicon Valley, the HBO show, where it's like, look, we have to try and, our company's mission is to make the world a better place. We just have to make sure we make it a better place, better than anyone else does. You know, and it's that idea of like that strange mix of like ego, which we all have, but then also being driven by something bigger than and other than ourselves, whether it's our people, our community, our history, our legacy, our sense of mission, our idea of God or the divine, and being inspired by that. And there's that push and pull between those two, you know, throughout this story. So it's important that we kind of portray both sides of it, because that's human, you know, is aiming high and ending up low. And actually accepting that.
In terms of politics at the moment, there tends to be a trend where Asian people will reach a certain level, and there's a propensity to kick away the ladder essentially, and kind of throw your own people under the bus. This film addresses that, but also what I loved personally about the film is it felt as if it was introducing a whole generation of Asian sort of creatives and talent to the screen. How important was that?
Massively, man, massively. And I was like, look, I'm a Queens kid. I live in New York. I'm right now in Texas. Like London it's just so vibrant. The energy there was maddening. And I think like Riz was like, yo, you got to look at some of these people. And I would just meet these people. Like I met Hussein Manower at one of these gatherings, and I was like, that guy, like I want to cast this guy in a film. He's never acted before. Right, and he's incredible in it, right?
Word artist who's in our film.
Yeah, and then you have Anjana Vasan, who is also this incredible singer-songwriter who's been in a few East End plays and you know West End plays. Sorry, yeah, and she just does great stuff. And let's go bring her in. So really, there's like, and also then there's Sudha Bachar, who's actually done a lot of great stuff in British theater, and then you have Ali Khan, who is this kind of national treasure in Pakistan. So it's like, let's just kind of bring all these kind of the old heads in, and let's go bring in some of the new guys.
It feels exciting, I think, in a way that we didn't set out on a mission to do it, but it just became suddenly like this celebration and exploration of like brown creativity, not just in terms of what the story of the film, that's what the story of the film really is, or at least one of the big subjects of the film, but also the way we ended up making the film. You know, it's kind of like a new wave of all this talent that's come together. But in answer to your question, yeah, certainly after this film, I'm trying to never work with brown people again. And to feel like we've done that and done that now. They can't, most people can't tweet at me saying I didn't do it. I did it. Now I'm done with you guys. So,
yeah, we're kicking the ladder. We're kicking the ladder right now. I've gone Hollywood already, so you know.
So this is like kickbox done.
Obviously, music's a big part of the film, and Riz obviously it borrows heavily from The Long Goodbye. But the thing that I was most interested in is kawali and the involvement of that. And not only did it, obviously was it a strong part of the film, but the whole film, it kind of felt as if it had like a kawali rhythm, in terms of like there was like a load of discord and like unrhythmic, and then suddenly it would come together and there'd be like a bit of harmony, and then there'd be discord again. Sort of, how important was that element of it?
Before you talk about the rhythm of the film, I just want to contextualize, maybe for people who don't know about kawali, who might be tuned in and stuff. It's just that, well, the story of the film is about a character who's out there chasing ambition and fame and success. But then you realize that love and acceptance that you're looking for, maybe it's closer to home, ultimately, right? I think that's a journey that a lot of people can relate to right now with the coronavirus. Like, we realize we've been on this treadmill out there chasing stuff that when this health crisis is hit, just like the health crisis hit Zed, what really matters is our well-being and our interconnectedness, right? That's the story of the film. But part of that idea of like, wow, maybe what I'm looking for has been under my nose the whole time. Maybe it's in my family, maybe it's in my DNA, maybe it's in my history, is portrayed by Kawali. Because this is a guy who's trying to find his own voice as a rapper, you know, which is a black art form, and trying to contribute to it. And then he realizes that actually there's this amazing legacy of like punk spoken word poetry and you know, and Qawwali music. And so, you know, his future lies in his past as part of his realization. But Bassam, you want to talk a bit about the rhythm of the, the kawali rhythm of the filmmaking.
We knew that we wanted to start the film at a concert and end with the concert, right? And we want to also be, if we're doing this artist's journey, the arc needs to also happen in the music. So we kind of knew that we were building a track, and the track that we're building is this Toba Tech Sing track. But the question is, how do we finally hear it in the end of the film? And generally, like, what we see is like, it's like the artist celebrates on the concert, you know, and then whatever, like maybe he'll bring his dad up on stage or whatever, right? But it's like, it kind of ends like that, but you know, the staging is a bit different. So, you know, so I'm not ruining anything. But I think that Discord, I love what you just said, man, about the Discord and all that, because that's what we were doing. Like, we were blessed with Paul Corley, who's an exceptional musician, who's our composer, and then Paul Davies, who is this phenomenal sound designer, and Adam Biskuski, who is our editor. All three of these people were just studying kawali with us, and we were looking into all this stuff. The other thing that I also mentioned, Naz, is that we went to Pakistan, Riz and I, and because I think the unfortunate thing is that it's hard for us to learn about kawali here in the West. Like, yeah, there are a few teachers, you know, or whatever, but it's a tradition that's passed down by sitting with the elders. You have to sit with your teacher, and you spend time with them. So we had a few sessions with these people to really understand the art form and be present in it. And when you're really present with it, then you go, okay, this is the kind of energy that we have to bring to life. And I don't know if we necessarily, like, you know, served on it yet, but I think we're working, but that was something that we really wanted to deliver, was to try to bring that urgency, that energy of kawali music.
Obviously, there's a theme running through it, which is partition and the movement of people and the scar that's left. Was it important to show that historical things like that caused a schism in time, they can resonate to now, and they can be ongoing and almost passed down through generations?
Yeah, it's something that I think we're realizing more and more. And, you know, cutting edge biological research is showing the way that trauma can be passed on through generations. When something crazy, traumatic happens to you, it changes your DNA. You pass that on to your offspring, they pass that on to theirs. You know, if you were to look at kind of rates of some diseases amongst African-American populations or refugee populations or diaspora populations, you know, you start to see some you know, the legacy of these traumas that have been visited on people. And some of it's socioeconomic and about, you know, unequal access to you know, healthcare or whatever, but some of it is actually real. And that's what we wanted to kind of look at with the autoimmunity, because something that I read was that autoimmune conditions are more prevalent in populations who live in countries outside of where their ancestors were, you know. And there's lots of theories for that. One of them was this idea of, you know, you have a different diet and a different climate. And another possibility is this idea of kind of minority stress theory, which is that your system is constantly in a state of kind of hypervigilance when you know that you're kind of an outsider and you're kind of part of an out-group rather than in-group, because humans are such tribal people, unfortunately, you know, that's how we've evolved. And so because your body's on alert, your body kind of is like just in attack mode or in defense mode. And that triggers your immune system to start attacking. But in the film, we kind of went a step further and said it's actually, you know, it's attacking itself because the body doesn't recognize itself. And that is kind of what autoimmunity is. It's like, it's an identity crisis played out on a molecular level. And so this idea of being hypervigilant, of having to be on guard, that legacy of partition, at any moment, it could all be taken away. We could lose everything. Your neighbors are suddenly digging graves for you. You know, the bloodbath of it, the trauma of it that we still haven't really fully contended with in the UK. You know, there's no monument to partition in the UK, you know, to all those millions of people that were killed. It's the legacy of that triggers this kind of this trauma, this sense of having to be on alert, this sense of not being sure where you stand and therefore who you are, not recognizing yourself, you know. So it's certainly a big thread in the film.
Bassam, obviously your previous films look at identity and what that means to people. Obviously, Ghosts of Sugarland and These Birds Fly. In terms of this film, that seems to be a big part of it. One thing that's come to light in recent weeks and days has been the excitement over Joe Biden saying the word inshallah during a presidential debate. Do you not find that? Yeah, do you not find the reactions sort of slightly odd that like there's such an insecurity that people are so excited that this guy said this word?
What is the reaction? Are people happy or are they annoyed?
They're just excited. I think they're just excited that they've said one of our words.
Yeah, I think there is. I think in the States, any scrap we get handed, we're very happy. I would say like something worth mentioning, man, is like seeing what life is like in London for Asians, right? And the experience that y'all have. Like I said this in a previous interview, where it's like, I feel like every time I'm taking a step on the streets of whether it's like Ealing Broadway or Brick Lane, it's like there were generations of Asians before me that made it possible for me to walk these streets with such confidence and such swagger. In a way, here, we kind of have like we came here on very different terms, you know, and there's a real, like, we're very white adjacent here, you know, like we have a desire to be as white as we can. So when we have probably literally like the two whitest men in the country, like, you know, different shades of white, literally, just going up there, and like when somebody says inshallah in like this kind of sarcastic way, like we all kind of get really excited. And even like some of like my journalist friends were like tweeting about it, and I was just like, and even in this kind of way of like, hey, look, we're relevant right now. And it's kind of like, I don't know, it's a bit weird of a thing to have happened, but if anything, it makes me also realize that like that this stuff, this work that we're doing, is that we're actually at the front lines of this battle that's being fought right now. And it's like, you know, it's so funny. Like I was just thinking about the lyric that Riz says is, you know, pick a side, do or die. And like, and that's the real fucking truth right now of this moment, is that like, we have to take a side. And even if it's like not even the people that we want to be with, like I don't want to be with Biden, but I kind of have to, right? It's like I gotta pick a side right now. And it's a truth that like, and also this is what he said about the hypervigilance of the immigrant. Like it's feeling very real right now, you know. And I wouldn't be surprised if people actually started getting a bit sick, like physically ill after the first like debate. Like it was a mentally like and physically taxing thing to watch here in the States. Like we're literally watching our democracy and our country fall apart in front of our eyes.
No, completely. I agree with so much of that. And just to end on a really negative sort of sad point.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why I think this film is so important is because a generation will eventually sort of leave us, in terms of this generation, a generation who has lived through moving from Pakistan or somewhere like that to the UK or somewhere like that. How important do you think it is to tell these stories now?
Massively, man, massively. Riz needs to get his ass back in London and finish his Englistan. You know, like we need this stuff right now, because the urgency of us, because we're losing this stuff right now. You know, I see it when I was there in London. I'm doing research for another project in London, and I'm hearing these women out, and it's like they haven't talked about this stuff because there's never been a space for them to talk about these things. I don't know now if it's similar in your family, but it's like we have to do it now. And if we don't do it now, like we're about to lose all these people, you know. And it's.
I feel the same. It's kind of like, it's almost sad that once you get to an age and a point where you want to find out, you tend to realize it's getting too late.
You know, that's, in a way, it's like, obviously we're storytellers, so we believe in the power of stories. But I think the times that we're living in has made that even clearer, as we're seeing a kind of abdication of responsibility and abdication of leadership amongst our politicians. What we're seeing is a kind of elevation of storytellers. And, you know, celebrity culture can be toxic in one sense because it's trying to fill a space that is really not equipped to. But in another sense, it's a natural, you know, the politicians are telling us a story. Our leaders are telling us a story that reflects who we are, or that can give us hope, or can kind of share hard truths. And so, you know, stories have become the place for that. And so I think right now, in these times that we're living in, again, where we're seeing such a big cultural shift happen, we need to kind of learn from the big cultural shifts that came before, the big ruptures that came before, the migrations, the dislocations, and how we were able to be resilient through them. It's absolutely essential. And I guess part of what the film explores is like, yo, Zed, you will not know where you are going until you know where you've come from. And that's not just on you, that's on your whole community to like be real about its history and its past and where it's coming from. But I believe in that. I believe that's true, you know, and hopefully this film is a small contribution towards us being able to tell our stories and all understand who we are a bit better.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. Sorry, just really quick, like about like the permission of us just taking risks and looking back. Sometimes we need to like for me, it's like I've always looked at like filmmakers of color, right? Like I look at Killer of Sheep and what that's done for me, and like, oh, I can do something that's also dignifying my community, but also do something that's unapologetically cinematic and blah blah. You know, and it's not just pandering to some whiteness. So I feel like hopefully we're adding into that, right? Like we're giving people permission that are younger than us to really just one up us and do some really crazy cool stuff that we haven't seen before.
No, that was great. And personally, I hope that you both work together again, because it was a really moving piece.
Now I got a restraining order. I don't want to see this guy again. Yeah. Yeah.